The sky above Seoul was burning red as the enemy ships came down from space. It had been 3 years since the alien attack began. Humans were losing badly. Most cities were destroyed. Food was hard to find. The aliens who called themselves the Wreck showed no mercy to anyone. Han looked up from his hiding place as another building fell in the distance. He was 32 years old with dark hair and tired eyes. Before the aliens came, he taught physics at the university. Now he was just trying to stay alive like everyone else. The underground bunker was cold and damp. About 50 people lived here now, hiding from the wreck search teams that hunted for survivors. They had electricity from hidden generators, but they used it carefully. The wreck could detect power sources if they were used too much. "Any news from the south?" Han asked. Jin looked up from her radio equipment and shook her head. She was there, communications expert, responsible for keeping in touch with other survivor groups. Her face was thin from too little food, but her eyes were still sharp and alert. "Nothing from Busan since yesterday," she said. "I think they were found." Han closed his eyes for a moment. This was bad news. Busan had been their last contact in the southern part of the country. If that group was gone, they were now cut off from any information about what was happening outside Seoul. "What about Project Sanctuary?" he asked quietly. Jin was about to answer when the bunker door opened. Kang walked in slowly. He was their leader, an older man who had once been a military officer. His hair had turned completely gray in the past 3 years. The stress of keeping everyone alive showed on his face. "Project Sanctuary failed," Kang said simply. "The launch site was attacked. Everyone there is dead." The room became very quiet. Project Sanctuary had been their last big hope. A plan to send a small group of people into space to start a colony somewhere else, somewhere the wreck couldn't reach. With it gone, humanity's chances of survival looked even worse. "So this is the end?" someone asked from the corner of the room. Kang didn't answer. He didn't need to. Everyone knew what this meant. Han walked to the small window that let them see the outside world. It was carefully hidden in the ruins of what used to be an office building. Through it, he could see part of the city and the sky above. The wrecked ships looked like giant black knives hanging in the air. Their design was all sharp angles and dark surfaces that seemed to swallow light. Suddenly, the bunker shook as something exploded nearby. Dust fell from the ceiling. "They're getting closer," Kang said. "We might have 2 or 3 days before they find us." Han looked at the faces around him. These people had fought so hard to survive. They had lost families, homes, everything they knew. And for what? Just to die a little later than everyone else? "We should try to contact other bunkers," Han suggested. "Maybe join forces, find a new hiding place." Jin shook her head. "Too risky. Using more radio power might lead them right to us." "We could try to steal one of their smaller ships," suggested you, a former car mechanic who now repaired their equipment. "Some of us have studied how they work." "And go where?" Kang asked. "They control the entire planet now." The conversation went on as people suggested desperate ideas, each one less likely to work than the last. Han turned back to the window. The sun was setting now, turning the sky dark. Soon the only light would come from fires still burning in the city and the cold glow of the alien ships. As night fell, Han noticed something strange. One of the stars above seemed to be moving, then another and another. "Kang," he called out, not taking his eyes from the window. "You need to see this." Kang came over quickly, followed by Jin and several others. They crowded around the small window, watching the moving lights in the sky. "More wreck ships?" someone asked, fear in their voice. "I don't think so," Han replied. "Look at how they move. It's different." The new objects moved with a grace that the wreck ships lacked. Where wreck vessels were blocky and brutal in their movements, these new arrivals seemed to flow through the sky like fish in water. "Are they attacking the wreck?" Jin asked in disbelief. Everyone watched as one of the new ships fired something at a wreck vessel. There was a flash of light and the wreck ship began to fall from the sky, burning as it went. "They are," Yu shouted. "They're fighting the wreck." A feeling Han hadn't experienced in years began to grow inside him. Hope. It was small and fragile, but definitely there. "We need more information," Kang said, always practical. "Jin, try the emergency frequency. See if anyone else is seeing this." Jin rushed to her radio equipment and began adjusting dials. For months they had avoided using certain radio channels because the wreck could detect them, but now, with new ships attacking the invaders, it seemed worth the risk. Suddenly the radio came to life with a sound they hadn't heard in a very long time, a human voice speaking Korean. "To all survivors on Earth," the voice said clearly. "This is Admiral Lee of the Human Defense Fleet. We have returned to reclaim our home. If you can hear this message, stay hidden but be ready. Help is coming." No one in the bunker spoke. The message repeated twice more before the radio went silent again. "It could be a trick," Kang said, but he didn't sound convinced. "The Vrek have tried to lure us out before. The Vrek don't speak Korean that well," Han pointed out, "and they've never called themselves human." Another explosion lit up the sky outside. Through the window they could see a wreck ship breaking apart, pieces of it falling toward the city below. "Even if it is humans, we don't know if we can trust them," Jin said. "Where have they been for the past 3 years while we were dying?" "Here?" Han looked at the battle unfolding in the sky above them. "I'm going up to the surface," he said suddenly. "We need to know who these new people are." "That's too dangerous," Kang argued. "The Vrek patrols are everywhere. If these really are humans with ships that can defeat the Vrek, they need to know." "We're still here," Han insisted. "I'll be careful. I'll use the east tunnel. It comes up in the old subway station. The Vrek don't patrol there much since the roof collapsed." Kang thought for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Take a weapon and a radio. Stay in contact." As Han prepared to leave, Jin grabbed his arm. "Don't die," she said simply. Han gave her a small smile. "I'll try not to." With a small backpack of supplies and a gun that probably wouldn't do much against a wrecked soldier, Han headed for the tunnel. For the first time in years, he felt something beyond mere survival. He felt purpose. Above him, the battle for Earth had taken an unexpected turn, and Han was determined to find out who these newcomers really were. Han moved carefully through the dark tunnel. The air was damp and smelled of mold. Water dripped from the ceiling in places, making small puddles on the concrete floor. He used a small flashlight to see his way, keeping the beam pointed down, to avoid being seen from a distance. The tunnel had once been an emergency exit for the subway system. Now it was one of the few safe ways to move around the city without being spotted by wreck patrols. Han knew every turn and obstacle by heart, after 3 years of living underground. As he got closer to the exit, Han turned off his flashlight. Even a small light could be spotted by wreck sensors. He moved forward slowly, feeling his way along the wall. The sounds of battle grew louder. He could hear explosions and strange high-pitched noises that must be weapons from the new ships. The exit was hidden behind a fallen wall panel. Han pushed it aside carefully and peeked out. He was in what used to be Gangnam Station, once one of the busiest subway stations in Seoul. Now the ceiling had partly collapsed, and the place was filled with rubble. Moonlight came through the holes in the roof, lighting the station with a pale glow. Han climbed over broken concrete and twisted metal, making his way to the street. He stayed close to the walls, moving from shadow to shadow. The night sky was filled with flashes of light as the battle continued above the city. He could see both types of ships now, the black angular wreck vessels and the new ships that shone like silver in the moonlight. The new ships were nothing like the wreck craft. They were smooth and curved, almost beautiful in their design. Han watched as one of them fired something at a wreck ship. A beam of blue light shot out, cutting through the black hull like it was made of paper. The wreck ship exploded in a ball of fire. "Whoever you are," Han whispered to himself. "Thank you." Suddenly, one of the silver ships began to descend. It was smaller than the others, but still huge compared to anything humans had built before the invasion. The ship moved down slowly, heading for an open area that had once been a shopping plaza, about half a kilometer from where Han was hiding. Han knew he should stay hidden. Going out in the open was dangerous, but this might be humanity's only chance to make contact with these newcomers. If they really were here to help, they needed to know there were still survivors. He took a deep breath and made his decision. Staying low and using the ruins for cover, Han began making his way toward the landing site. Twice he had to freeze and hide as wreck patrol units rushed past, clearly confused and panicking at the attack from above. When Han finally reached the edge of the plaza, the silver ship was already on the ground. It sat in the center of the open space, glowing softly in the darkness. A door on its side began to open, extending a ramp to the ground. Han crouched behind a fallen wall, watching carefully. His heart was beating so hard he thought it might jump out of his chest. After 3 years of running and hiding after watching most of humanity be destroyed, this moment felt important in a way he couldn't fully explain. Figures began walking down the ramp. They wore suits that seemed to shine slightly, with helmets that hid their faces. There were about 10 of them, moving with confidence and purpose. Some carried objects that must be weapons, while others had equipment Han didn't recognize. The leader of the group stopped at the bottom of the ramp and looked around. Then slowly they reached up and removed their helmet. Han gasped. The face revealed in the moonlight was human, a woman with short black hair and Asian features. She looked to be in her 40s with a small scar across her right cheek. She said something to the others and they spread out, securing the area. Han should have stayed hidden. That would have been the smart thing to do. But hope made him brave and foolish. He stood up from his hiding place, hands raised to show he wasn't a threat. "Hello," he called out. "I'm human, a survivor." Instantly, several weapons were pointed at him. Han froze, wondering if he had made a terrible mistake. But the woman raised her hand and the others lowered their weapons. "Come forward slowly," she called back in perfect Korean. Her voice was clear and strong. Han did as she asked, stepping carefully over the rubble into the open plaza. As he got closer, he could see more details of their suits and equipment. Everything looked advanced, far beyond the technology Earth had before the invasion. He stopped a few meters from the woman. Up close, he could see the tiredness in her eyes, but also a strength that reminded him of Kang. "My name is Han," he said. "I'm part of a resistance group hiding nearby. There are more of us. Are you really human?" The woman smiled. It was a small smile, but genuine. "Yes. My name is Captain Sun of the Human Defense Fleet. And yes, we are very human." "But how?" Han asked, his voice shaking slightly. "Where did you come from? How do you have ships that can fight the wreck? We've been trying for 3 years with no success." Sun's expression became more serious. "It's complicated, and we don't have much time. The wreck will regroup soon. Are there more survivors nearby?" Han nodded. "Yes, we have a bunker network. About 50 people in my group, and there are other groups spread throughout the city. Maybe 400 people total in this area." Sun spoke quickly into a small device on her wrist. More people began exiting the ship, some carrying crates of supplies. "We need to move fast," Sun explained. "Can you take us to your people?" Han hesitated only for a moment. "Yes, but I have questions. Many questions." "I understand," Sun replied. "And I promise to answer them. But right now, every minute counts." As they began walking back toward the station entrance, Han couldn't contain his curiosity any longer. The radio message mentioned a human defense fleet. But Earth never had a space fleet, especially not ships like yours. "Where have you been all this time? Why didn't you come sooner?" Sun was quiet for a moment as they picked their way through the ruins. Above them, the battle continued, though many of the wreck ships seemed to be retreating. "We came as soon as we could," she finally said. "The journey was difficult. As for where we came from..." She paused, looking at Han carefully. "This may be hard to believe, but we're from Earth, just not this Earth." Han stopped walking. "What do you mean?" "We come from a parallel Earth," Sun explained. "A different version of this planet where history took a different path. In our world, we developed space travel much earlier. We've been fighting the wreck for generations." Han's mind raced with questions. Parallel worlds? Different versions of Earth? It sounded impossible. Yet here she was, clearly human, with technology far beyond anything he had seen before. So you came through… what? A portal between worlds? Sun nodded. Something like that. Our scientists discovered a way to travel between parallel realities. When we detected the wreck invasion in your world, we prepared an expedition. It took time to get here. The math is complicated. A loud explosion from above interrupted their conversation. One of the larger wreck ships was falling from the sky, breaking apart as it came down. We need to hurry, Sun said urgently. Take me to your people. We brought supplies, weapons, and medicine. And most importantly, we brought hope. As they reached the hidden entrance to the tunnel, Han looked back at the sky once more. For the first time in 3 years, the wreck were running away instead of attacking. It seemed impossible, yet he was seeing it with his own eyes. Your timing is perfect, Han said quietly. We had just lost our last hope when your ships appeared. Sun's expression softened slightly. Sometimes hope arrives exactly when you need it most. Han led Sun and several of her team into the tunnel, back toward the bunker where his friends waited. The future was still uncertain, full of questions and dangers. But for the first time in years, that future might contain something. More than just survival, it might contain victory. The return journey through the tunnel seemed much faster to Han. With Captain Sun and 4 of her crew members following close behind, he moved quickly through the darkness. The rest of Sun's team had stayed with their ship to unload supplies and secure the area. How much further? Sun asked. She had put her helmet back on, but her voice came through clearly. Not far now, Han replied. Just a few more minutes. As they walked, Han noticed how differently Sun's people moved compared to the survivors he knew. They walked with confidence and strength. They didn't have the constant fear and tiredness that marked those who had lived under wreck rule for 3 years. Your bunker has power? One of Sun's team asked. Han nodded. We have generators. We use them sparingly to avoid detection. The wreck can detect energy signatures, Sun explained. But we have technology that can shield your power sources. It will make your bunker safer. Finally, they reached the hidden entrance to the bunker. Han knocked in a special pattern. 3 quick knocks, pause, 2 slow knocks. After a moment, the door slid open just enough for someone to peek out. Han? Jin's voice came from inside. Who are these people? Friends, Han said simply. They're human. Let us in quickly. The door opened wider and they all hurried inside. The small entry room was immediately crowded with the newcomers in their bulky suits. Jin stared at them with wide eyes, her hand still near the weapon at her side. It's okay, Han assured her. They're here to help us. Sun removed her helmet again, revealing her face to Jin and the 2 guards who stood nearby. Their expressions changed from suspicion to surprise. My name is Captain Sun of the Human Defense Fleet, she said. We've come a long way to find you. Word spread quickly through the bunker. By the time they reached the main room, everyone was gathering to see the visitors. Kang pushed his way through the crowd, his old military training showing in his stance. I'm Commander Kang, he said, studying Sun and her team carefully. Han says you're human, but your technology is far beyond ours. Explain yourselves. Sun met his gaze calmly. Commander, I understand your caution. In your position, I would feel the same. But we truly are human, just like you. She gestured to her team, and they removed their helmets as well. Their faces showed a mix of ages and features, but all were clearly human. We come from a parallel Earth, Sun continued. A world very similar to yours, but with a different history. In our world, we developed space travel and advanced technology much earlier than you did. Murmurs spread through the crowd of survivors. Some looked skeptical, others hopeful. Parallel worlds? Kang asked. You expect us to believe that? Sun looked around at the gathered survivors. I know it sounds unbelievable, but the multiverse theory suggests there are countless versions of Earth. Some are almost identical to yours. Others are very different. In our world, we discovered a way to travel between these realities. And you just happened to find us? Jin asked. Out of all these worlds? One of Sun's team stepped forward. He was an older man with gray hair and kind eyes. My name is Dr. Park. I led the research team that found your world. We didn't find you by chance. We've been searching specifically for Earths under wreck attack. Why? Han asked. Because we've been fighting the wreck for generations, Sun explained. They've attacked many versions of Earth across the multiverse. In some worlds, they won. In others, like ours, we fought them off. We've made it our mission to help other Earths facing the same enemy. The room was quiet as everyone took in this information. Han looked at the faces around him. Some showed disbelief, others hope. After 3 years of constant defeat, hope was a dangerous feeling. Can you prove any of this? Kang asked directly. Sun nodded. Yes. She touched a control on her wrist, and a small device floated up from her belt. It hovered in the air for a moment, then projected a 3-dimensional image in the center of the room. The image showed a beautiful city, with tall, elegant buildings and flying vehicles moving between them. Trees and gardens covered many of the rooftops. People walked along clean streets looking healthy and happy. This is new soul in our world, Sun said softly. This is what your city could be again. The image changed to show massive ships in orbit around Earth. Some were similar to the ones battling the wreck outside. Others were even larger. Our defense fleet, Sun explained, built after our first encounter with the wreck 200 years ago. The final image showed a terrible battle. Wreck ships attacking a city that looked similar to Seoul. Buildings falling, people running. This was our world during the first wreck war, Sun said. We were almost destroyed just like you. But we survived, we rebuilt, and we learned how to fight them. Now we've come to help you do the same. The images faded and the room was silent again. Then you, the mechanic, stepped forward. If you've been fighting these monsters for so long, why come here now? We've been dying for 3 years. There was anger in his voice, but also pain. Han understood it. Where was this help when his family had been killed? When their cities were burning? Sun's expression showed genuine sadness. Traveling between worlds is incredibly difficult. It took us almost 2 years just to locate your Earth among the countless others. Another year to prepare the expedition and calculate the correct path. We came as soon as we could. Dr. Park added, the math involved is complicated. Travel between parallel realities requires precise calculations. If we had made a mistake, we might have ended up somewhere else entirely, or arrived years too late. Kang had been watching silently, his eyes never leaving Sun's face. Finally, he asked the question that mattered most. Can you really help us defeat the wreck? Yes, Sun said without hesitation. We've brought weapons that can penetrate their shields, technology to protect your people, and knowledge about how they think and fight. She stepped closer to Kang. Commander, I know you have no reason to trust us yet, but right now my people are unloading medical supplies, food, and weapons from our ship. Let us prove ourselves by our actions. Before Kang could answer, a young woman pushed forward through the crowd. Han recognized her as Mi, one of their medics. She was holding a small child in her arms, a boy about 5 years old. Can you help him? Mi asked, her voice breaking. He has an infection. We have no more antibiotics. Sun looked at the child. His face was flushed with fever, his breathing labored. Without a word, she turned to one of her team members who immediately opened a case he had been carrying. Inside were medical supplies unlike anything Han had seen before. The team member, clearly a doctor, took out a small device and gently passed it over the child's body. It made a soft humming sound. Bacterial pneumonia, he said. Advanced, but treatable. He took out a small tube and pressed it against the boy's arm. There was a soft hiss and the child flinched slightly. That's it? Mi asked in disbelief. The doctor nodded. He'll start feeling better within an hour. By tomorrow he'll be playing again. Mi looked at the child, then at Sun, tears in her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. Sun turned back to Kang. This is why we came, Commander. Not just to fight the wreck, but to save lives. To give your people a future again. Kang looked at the sick child, then at his people gathered around. Their faces showed something he hadn't seen in a very long time. Hope. "What do you need from us?" he asked finally. "Information," Sun replied. "About wreck positions, about your surviving population, and people willing to fight alongside us." Han stepped forward. "I will fight." Jin nodded. "Me too." One by one, others joined them. The survivors of Earth, ready to take back their home. Kang looked at them all, then back at Sun. "Welcome to Earth, Captain. Let's plan our next move." 2 weeks passed quickly. The bunker became a center of activity as Captain Sun's people worked with the survivors. They brought in supplies, weapons, and equipment from their ships. They taught the Earth humans how to use their advanced technology. Han spent most of his time with Dr. Park, learning about the weapons that could hurt the wreck. The most important was something called a quantum destabilizer. "The wreck have special armor," Dr. Park explained as they worked. "Normal weapons cannot hurt them because their bodies exist partly in another dimension." Han looked at the strange device on the table. It was shaped like a rifle, but much lighter. It glowed with a soft blue light. "This destabilizer forces them fully into our dimension," Dr. Park continued. "It makes them solid, makes them vulnerable. Then regular weapons can hurt them." Han picked up the destabilizer carefully. "How many of these do you have?" "Not enough," Dr. Park admitted. "But we brought the tools and materials to make more. That's why we need your help." Han and several others with science backgrounds quickly learned how to build the new weapons. They worked day and night, creating as many as possible. Meanwhile, Jin worked with the communication experts from Sun's team. They set up a new system to contact other survivor groups without the wreck detecting them. "We found 3 more bunkers in Seoul," Jin reported during a meeting. "And 2 groups hiding in the mountains. Maybe 600 more survivors total," Captain Sun nodded. "Good work. We've made contact with similar groups around the world. There are still humans fighting in many places." Kang spread a map on the table. It showed Seoul and the surrounding area. Red marks showed where wreck bases were located. "Their main base is here." He pointed to a large red circle near what used to be Incheon Port. "They've built some kind of command center there. It controls all their forces in this region." Sun studied the map carefully. "If we can destroy that command center, their forces will be confused. They won't be able to coordinate their attacks." "How do we get close enough?" Yu asked. "That area is heavily guarded." Sun smiled. "We have a plan, but it will take all of us working together." The plan was both simple and dangerous. While the ships from Sun's fleet attacked the wreck vessels in space, drawing their attention upward, ground forces would strike at the main wreck base. If they could plant a special device called a dimensional anchor at the heart of the base, it would cut off the wreck's connection to their home dimension. Han was surprised when Sun assigned him to the ground attack team. "I'm not a soldier," he protested. "I was a physics teacher." "Exactly," Sun replied. "This mission isn't just about fighting. The dimensional anchor needs to be calibrated by someone who understands the science. You've learned faster than anyone else." Han wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. In the past 2 weeks, he had absorbed the new knowledge quickly, helping to improve the weapons they were building. "When do we leave?" he asked instead. "Tomorrow at dawn," Sun answered. "Get some rest tonight, you'll need it." That night, Han found it hard to sleep. He lay on his small bed thinking about what was coming. For 3 years they had been hiding, just trying to survive. Now they were about to attack the enemy directly. The idea was both terrifying and exciting. Jin came to sit beside him. "Scared?" she asked quietly. Han nodded. "Yes. Aren't you?" "Of course," she admitted. "But also hopeful. For the first time, I believe we might win." Han understood what she meant. The arrival of Sun's people had changed everything. They brought not just weapons and technology, but something more important, the knowledge that the wreck could be defeated. "Be careful tomorrow," Jin said, touching his hand briefly before leaving. Dawn came too quickly. The attack team gathered near the entrance of the bunker. There were 20 people from Earth and 10 from Sun's crew. All wore the special armor the visitors had brought and carried the new weapons. Captain Sun stood before them, her face serious. Today we take the first step toward reclaiming your world. The Vrek think they've won. They think humanity is beaten. Today we prove them wrong. The team moved through the tunnels, then up to the surface. The morning sky was filled with flashes of light as the battle began in space. Sun's fleet was attacking the wrecked ships, just as planned. Move out, Sun ordered, and the team began their journey toward the wreck base. They used the old sewer systems, moving quickly through the underground passages. Han had never been this far from the bunker before. The sewers were dark and smelled bad, but they provided a safe way to travel without being seen. After 2 hours, they reached a point directly beneath the wreck base. Han could feel vibrations through the concrete above. The sounds of the battle in space were louder here. This is it, Sun said. From here we go up and into the base. Remember your training, stay in your groups, and don't forget, the wreck can only be heard after they've been hit with a destabilizer. They climbed up through a maintenance shaft, emerging into what had once been a warehouse. Now it was filled with strange wreck technology, glowing with an eerie green light. Clear, whispered one of Sun's team, checking the area with a special scanner. No wreck in this section. They moved forward carefully, keeping to the shadows. Han stayed in the middle of the group, carrying the dimensional anchor in a special backpack. It was heavier than it looked and warm against his back. The first wreck patrol found them 3 minutes later. The aliens moved strangely, like insects walking on 2 legs. Their bodies were covered in black armor that seemed to absorb light. 2 of Sun's people fired destabilizers immediately. Blue light flashed and the wreck soldiers seemed to shimmer for a moment. Then the rest of the team fired regular weapons, and the wreck fell. Move faster, Sun ordered. They know we're here now. The team hurried forward deeper into the base. They encountered more wreck soldiers, but the pattern was always the same. Destabilize, then attack. The visitors' weapons and training made what once seemed impossible now almost easy. Finally, they reached the central chamber of the base. It was a large room filled with pulsing machinery. In the center stood a tall, thin structure that reached from floor to ceiling. The control spire, Sun explained quickly. That's where we need to place the anchor. But the chamber was heavily guarded. Dozens of wreck moved around the room, and as soon as the team was spotted, alarms began to sound. The battle was fierce. Han stayed back, protected by others, but he could see that even with their advanced weapons, they were outnumbered. Several team members fell, both Earth humans and visitors. We need to reach the spire, Sun shouted over the noise of the fighting. Kang, who had insisted on joining the mission despite his age, suddenly pointed to the far side of the room. There! A service tunnel! It might lead behind the spire! Han looked where Kang was pointing. There was indeed a small opening in the wall, partly hidden by machinery. Cover us, Sun ordered, grabbing Han's arm. You and I will go through. The rest of you keep them busy. They ran toward the opening, ducking and weaving as wreck weapons fired around them. The rest of the team provided covering fire, keeping most of the wreck soldiers back. The service tunnel was narrow and dark. They crawled through quickly, emerging on the other side of the chamber, directly behind the control spire. Now, Sun said, get the anchor ready. Han removed the device from his backpack. It was a metal sphere with glowing blue lines across its surface. According to Dr. Park, it would create a dimensional barrier that would cut off the wreck from their home dimension. I need to calibrate it to this world's specific frequency, Han said, working quickly. It will take a few minutes. Make it fast, Sun replied, firing at a wrecked soldier who had spotted them. We don't have much time. Han worked as quickly as he could, his fingers flying over the controls of the anchor. The fighting continued around them, growing more intense as more wreck poured into the chamber. Hurry, Sun urged as she fired again and again. Almost done, Han said, making the final adjustments. Just a few more seconds. The anchor began to glow brighter, humming with power. Han looked up at Sun. It's ready. Once activated, we have 30 seconds to get clear, Sun nodded. Do it. Han pressed the activation button. The anchor's glow intensified. Now run, Sun shouted. Everyone out, 30 seconds. They rushed back toward the entrance, calling to the rest of the team to retreat. The wreck seemed confused by their sudden withdrawal, hesitating before following. The team raced through the corridors carrying their wounded. Han counted in his head. 20 seconds, 15 seconds, they burst out of the building into the morning light. 10 seconds. Keep going, Sun yelled. Get as far away as possible. 5 seconds. They dove behind a fallen wall just as a blinding flash of light erupted from the base. The ground shook violently. A wave of energy passed over them, making Han's skin tingle. When he looked up, the wreck base was collapsing in on itself. The control spire was gone, and with it, the wreck's connection to their home dimension. Did it work? Someone asked. Sun checked a device on her wrist, then smiled. Yes, the dimensional barrier is in place. No more wreck can come through. Han looked at the ruins of the base, then up at the sky. The battle there was ending too. Without the control spire, the wreck ships were disorganized, easy targets for Sun's fleet. We did it, he said, hardly believing it. We actually did it. This is just the beginning, Sun Reppy. 1 year had passed since the battle at the wreck base. Han stood on a hillside overlooking Seoul. The city looked very different now. Many buildings were still in ruins, but new ones were rising among them. Some were built in the traditional, Korean style, while others used the advanced technology brought by Captain Sun's people. The sky above was clear and blue. No wreck ships darkened it anymore. Instead, there were occasional gleams of silver as ships from the human defense fleet passed overhead. Enjoying the view? Asked a familiar voice. Han turned to see Jin walking up the hill to join him. She wore the uniform of the new United Earth government, with a small badge showing her position as communications director. Just thinking about how much has changed, Han replied with a smile. And it had changed. After the successful attack on the wreck base, the war had turned in humanity's favor. Without their command center and cut off from reinforcements, the remaining wreck had been hunted down over the following months. The last group had been defeated just 2 months ago. The Antarctic dome is complete, Jin said, standing beside him to look at the city. They say the first children were born there last week. Healthy twins. Han nodded, feeling a mix of emotions. The Antarctic Research Station had been converted into a self-sufficient colony, one of several being built around the world. These places would ensure that if Earth ever faced another threat like the wreck, humanity would survive. How is the space elevator coming along? Han asked. Jin smiled. Ahead of schedule. Min says they'll finish the main structure by next year. Then we can start building ships in orbit. The irony wasn't lost on Han. The wreck invasion had nearly destroyed humanity on this Earth. But now, thanks to the help from Sun's people, they were advancing faster than they would have otherwise. The visitors had shared their knowledge freely, helping Earth rebuild in ways that would have seemed like science fiction just a few years ago. The council is meeting in an hour, Jin reminded him. They're voting on your proposal. Han checked the time. He was now one of the leaders of the science team, working directly with Dr. Park and other scientists from both Earths. I should get going then, he said. I want to review my notes one more time. They walked down the hill together, toward the new government building in the center of Seoul. It was one of the first structures completed after the war, built using a combination of Earth materials and visitor technology. As they passed through the city, Han saw signs of life returning everywhere. Children played in a newly built park. Markets were open with people trading goods from different regions. A group of workers, both Earth humans and visitors, were clearing rubble from a collapsed building, preparing the site for new construction. It's good to see people smiling again, Jin said, following his gaze to a group of laughing children. Han nodded. Sometimes I still can't believe it. 3 years of hiding, of just trying to survive, and now this. They reached the Memorial Plaza, a circular space in front of the government building. In the center stood a statue of Captain Sun, looking up at the sky. Around the base were the names of those who had died in the final battle against the wreck, both Earth humans and visitors. Han paused for a moment, reading some of the names. Many were people he had known, friends who had fought beside him. but their sacrifice had made this new world possible. Inside the government building, the council chamber was already filling with people. The United Earth government consisted of representatives from all surviving human communities around the world, working together with advisors from Sun's people. Han took his seat at the science table, next to Dr. Park. The older man had become a mentor to him over the past year, teaching him about the advanced physics that made interstellar travel possible. "Ready for the big vote?" Dr. Park asked with a smile. "I hope so," Han replied. "It's an important step." The council leader, a woman named Kim, who had once led a resistance group in what used to be Busan, called the meeting to order. "Today we vote on Proposal 7B, she announced. "The establishment of the Dimensional Scout Program. Dr. Han will present the final details." Han stood and walked to the center of the chamber. He looked around at the faces watching him, both familiar and new. Taking a deep breath, he began, "As you know, the visitors who came to our aid last year were humans from a parallel Earth. They crossed dimensions to help us fight the wreck. Now, we have the opportunity to do the same for others." He activated the display system, showing a model of the multiverse as they now understood it. Countless spheres representing different versions of Earth, some glowing blue, others red. The blue worlds are like ours and the visitors, Earths where humans have survived and developed. The tier, red ones are Earths currently under wreck, attack, or occupation. He zoomed in on one red sphere. "Using the technology and knowledge shared by our friends, we have built a dimensional scanner. It allows us to locate other Earths in need of help. We have already found 3 worlds where the wreck invasion is just beginning." Murmurs spread through the chamber as council members discussed this information. Han continued. "The Dimensional Scout Program would train teams to travel to these worlds, to bring them the same help that was brought to us, to teach them how to fight the wreck and rebuild their societies." Kim leaned forward. "This would require significant resources, Dr. Han. Resources we need for our own rebuilding." Han nodded. "Yes, it would. But consider this. What if no one had come to help us? What if we had been left to fight alone? We would not be sitting here today." He paused, looking around the room again. "The visitors made a choice to help us, even though it cost them dearly. Many never returned to their own world. They gave us a future. Now we have a chance to do the same for others." The chamber was quiet as everyone considered his words. Then Dr. Park stood up beside him. "There is something else you should know," the older man said. "When Captain Sun and her team activated the dimensional anchor at the wreck base, it did more than cut off the wreck. It created a permanent barrier around this Earth." Han looked at him in surprise. This was new information. "What Dr. Park means," said a voice from the back of the room, "is that we can never go home." Everyone turned to see Min, one of the surviving members of Sun's original team, walking toward the center of the chamber. "The anchor that saved your world sealed ours off from us forever," Min explained. "We knew this would happen. Captain Sun knew it too. It was a one-way journey from the beginning." The room erupted in shocked conversations. Kim had to call for order several times before the noise died down. "You knew?" Han asked Min quietly. "All of you knew you could never go back?" Min nodded. "We made our choice. Some things are worth the sacrifice." Han turned back to the council, his determination even stronger now. "This is why the Scout program is so important. The visitors gave up everything to help us. We should honor their sacrifice by doing the same for others." Kim called for a vote. One by one, the council members made their choice. When the final count was displayed, Han felt a wave of relief and pride. The proposal had passed by a strong majority. As the meeting ended, Han walked outside with Dr. Park and Min. The sun was setting, painting the sky in beautiful colors of orange and red. "What happens now?" Han asked. "Now we build the scout ships," Dr. Park replied. "And we train the teams, your team, Han. The council has named you as the first scout commander." Han was shocked. "Me? But there are others with more experience." Min smiled. "But none with your understanding of both worlds. You bridge the gap between your Earth and ours. That's what the scouts will need to do." As they looked out over the city, lights began to come on in windows and along streets. In the darkening sky, the first stars appeared. Somewhere out there, Han said quietly, there are other Earths. Other humans fighting against the darkness. Dr. Park put a hand on his shoulder. And this time, they won't have to fight alone. Han nodded, feeling a sense of purpose stronger than anything he had felt before. The wreck had nearly destroyed his world, but in doing so, they had united humanity in ways no one could have imagined. Earth was not just rebuilding what was lost, it was becoming something new, something better, and now they would carry that hope to the stars. The end.